All right. Hey everyone, welcome Nick. And Nick is a CEO and founder of Leadbirds.io. And I use their agency a lot to extract Apollo data for myself. And what really intrigued me and why Nick is here is because, if you go to their website, you'll see the offer. Like, it's such a crazy offer where Nick runs this outbound agency where they help agency and SaaS owners set up appointments, qualified appointments, and the most freaking part of it is like the charge only for leads, which is really rare. It shows that you are capable of it. So I'll hand over the stage to Nick. So Nick, give me like a brief about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So been in the outbound space for about 3 years now, 3 to 4 years, I'd say. Been running Leadbird for about 2 years. Just been deep in the cold email space. Outside of Leadbird, I run a couple other SaaS companies in the cold outreach space, Quick Lines, Inboxy, Emmy. So anything cold email related, LinkedIn outbound related, just outbound lead gen in any way regarding automations. That's what I'm about.
They're just in the trenches fighting the war.
Yeah, pretty much trying to figure out how to get the lowest lead cost as possible.
All right, good stuff, man. So when did you get started?
Yeah, I mean, really, about 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, I'd say, is like when it really started to pop off.
Hmm.
Funny enough, I kind of like fell into the space just by an accident. Kind of, I think like my freshman year in college, I wanted to start a business. I started a business, made like the formation papers, filed the company. Then I went, built a nice little website. And then I was just kind of sitting there and I was like, how do I get customers? Like what's
Stories are
next?
out there.
And then like that, like I was just sitting there thinking, like, oh, like is someone gonna call my phone? Like, are they gonna just like find me on Google? Like, how does this work, right? And so then I was just like kind of Googling and came across a couple YouTube videos and like they're talking about cold calling and like cold emailing and all these things. And right now there's so much information out there. There's creators like both of us who put out a ton of content when it comes to like cold emailing and outbound lead gen. So it's so much easier to kind of figure out, okay, here's what I need to do and here's the tools I can use and go from there. But when I first started out, there really was nothing out there. And so trying to figure it out on my own, super difficult, but it was such a like good experience because it helped me just kind of build a foundation that I needed. And I was running that business for about like 6 to 12 months, grew it pretty much all from cold calling and cold emailing. And
Right.
the cold emailing methods we were using back then were way different than what we do now, but
Of course.
it kind of helped me segue into what we do now when it comes to cold outreach because I just kind of like fell in love with it. That like the sales, the lead gen, being able to get on calls with people that don't know me at all and trying to sell them on a service, like that part was fun. And so that's really just kind of like what got me in this space and kind of how I learned everything.
Yeah, for me, it started because I was broke. I didn't have money to run ads. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what else should I do to find customers? I was like, you know what? Email is free. So let's just start blasting 100 emails a day. So that's how I came into
that,
this.
that's how it, yeah, that's how it starts for everyone, like,
Yeah.
especially if you don't I don't have a paid advertising background at all, still don't know how to run paid ads at all. And like, I was like, okay, like, should I go try to figure out how to do this manually and not spend much, or like try to just blow a budget on something I don't even know how to do? So it just kind of made sense to kind of do the manual route. Like I knew it was going to be grunt and hard work, but like I was willing to be in the trenches, and try to figure it out.
It is very important. You know what? Like, I feel like a lot of people nowadays are like spoiled. I see that
Mm-hmm.
because when I started cold emailing, I mean, we had this mail mergers, we had all sorts of software. Instantly was not a thing back then, though. But we didn't have a lot of softwares that would automate this entire cold email thing, like Lemlist or Instantly Now, right? But back then,
Mm-hmm.
if you had to send an email, I'm talking about pre-pandemic, like 3 years, 4 years ago. If you had to send email, you had to manually type everything and you had to follow a strict cadence. 50 emails a day, every single thing, and manually track them in an Excel sheet. Like, okay, I have to follow this guy, and uh, that's an interesting take. Like, I want to hear your side of things. How, in your current agency, uh, what sort of cadence do you play? Do you have in place so that your team works efficiently while sending cold emails? Because I see that even if you can automate an entire stuff, you still need to have that manual intervention. So how does the typical cadence look like for a client?
Yeah. So, this is a really good point. So like what I noticed is like when you look at the cold email space right now, like a majority of people, well, first let's kind of look at like the average person who does cold emails. They don't do it effectively. They're not able to land in the inbox. They're writing with like a lot of jargon and a whole bunch of like super long copy, putting
It's like,
pictures,
hey,
all these kind
Nick,
of things.
hope you're doing well.
Yeah, and
Let's
it's
start with that. I'm like, oh shit, what the hell?
yeah, yeah. So like that's like where I would say like 80% of the market is right now with cold emails, right? Just people still way behind. They don't even know where to get the data from. Like just so many things broken in that process. But then there's like the 20%, right? And the 20% are like probably the what I would say is like it's kind of like Pareto's principle. Like the people that are actually winning in the cold email space are like the very few that are still there. And even in that very few, like most of them are running very generic campaigns, right? Like they're pulling their leads from Apollo, writing some, decent copy with a decent offer. And they're kind of just like letting the campaign ride. And for the most part, they got to focus more on the volume. And, now it's easier with instantly smart lead and tools like that, but they got to focus more on the volume. And that's kind of how we were working earlier in the year. And, like that game it works whenever you have like an offer that doesn't convert well. But for the most part, what we did is we built like these playbooks. And so we have like these specific ways where we will scrape data or we'll, get data from specific sources and then be able to like call that into the copy and things of that sort. And so now our team, like we just implement playbooks for our clients when it comes to managing their campaign. So like, if we see that, our client integrates really well with people who use HubSpot, for example, right? We might go pull the data from Built With and then go identify people. Maybe we'll go pull the data from, their followers on LinkedIn, like their company page followers. Like we'll do a whole bunch of things so that copy we could say like, hey, first name, saw that you're following HubSpot on LinkedIn and thought it made sense to reach out and then kind of come in with the pitch. And
Yeah.
so I would say like right now, like the manual intervention, I guess, from our team is just like thinking, okay, like what strategy and what playbook do we have in our arsenal that's going to be
That's
that's going to
half the
convert the
game,
best for
right?
the client.
Picking the right leads is really half the game. So I had
Yeah.
this instance when
Mhm.
one of my clients was complaining earlier, like, "Oh, dude, my sales team is not closing any deals. You are giving me shitty leads." So I had to like sit with him and show the lead gen process, get it verified. Like, okay, do you want me to reach out to these specific leads? They'll be like, these fall into my target audience. Then we started reaching out. Then it was pretty cool. So do you mean just by using a tool like Apollo without using any manual intervention, we can't get results?
I think you can get results and it kind of depends on the offer, right? So like think about it, right? Like if I'm selling outbound lead gen on a pay per lead offer, right? Like the way I'm running right now, I could pull pretty much any category inside of Apollo that's B2B, run a cold email campaign and get results. But let's say, you can't run a pay per lead offer, you're running like a retainer offer, right? You got to think about like, yeah, sure. Could you pull the leads from Apollo and just run it normally? 100% you could, right? But like my email to lead ratio will be, I don't know, probably 10 times higher than the person who's running a retainer model. Because in my email copy, I could say, hey, if I could generate you paper or leads on a pay per lead basis, would you be interested in speaking? Like, who's not going to reply to that,
Obviously, yes, right, yeah.
And so then you got to kind of think about, okay, what's a better way to make my offer stand out, right? Like, how could I make it seem like uh, I'm doing some extra level of personalization? So, like, if I was doing outbound lead gen on a retainer basis, maybe what I would do is like go pull all the followers on LinkedIn of SalesLoft or Outreach or some of these legacy tools, right?
Hmm.
And then be able to like mention that in the copy and just kind of stand out in the inbox. Because like think about how many people are emailing them saying, "Hey, I saw that you're following SalesLoft on LinkedIn. You're probably entrenched in the outbound space. If I could help you generate leads using SalesLoft, would you be interested in speaking?" Something like that. That's just something that came up off the top of my head. But being able to stand out in the
That's
inbox by
pretty good to be
doing
honest.
some kind of like like just kind of being able to position it like that. Like that's what you have to do when the offer and like what the person is selling is not like unique. And like for the most part, I would say like right now we have 99 clients. I would say out of the 99,
Oh, you're touching
under
100. Nice. It's
yeah,
cool.
we'll hit 100 hopefully either in the next few days. But I would say out of the 99, there's less than maybe 15 that have like a really good offer.
Hmm.
The rest, they're all selling things that typically don't have product market fit, or just are solutions that there's so many vendors out in the space for. And so to get those guys results, yes, we could pull it from Apollo, just run a regular strategy, just like most people do. But since we're working on a pay per lead model, right, we only get paid for what we bring to the table. Like I have to, train my team on like, okay, let's go implement these, unique playbooks to get our email to lead ratio to be, better. Because like if I can send less emails and generate more leads, then it's going to be way better than, if I send more emails, generate less leads because it just costs more too, you know?
Do you help
So
your
that's kind of
clients
how I
with
think about it.
the offer as well?
We don't, because like a lot of our clients are, let's say, like 50 plus employees, right? And in those companies, like you can't really come in and like strategize on like how you could adjust their offer because it's like they already have the built-in process. Maybe it's a product company. If it's a SaaS company, like you can't really, you could tell them like, hey, this is probably some of the better markets to hit, and like where we've had success and are relatively easy to generate leads. We'll kind of give that advice, but honestly, like I found from working with so many different clients that a lot of clients don't like they kind of come in with like their notion and their strategy and they want to implement that, and then you kind
Yeah.
of have to work with them on that and like kind of adjust it to what you want as well. So it's kind of a battle. It really depends on the client.
Yeah.
But like if it's a client we've like for example, we've worked with like a lot of different types of like marketing agencies, so we know pretty well like what will convert and what won't, like what industries to hit. Like we'll always try to push them on that because like it's a win-win for us because they get the leads, we get the leads, we both get paid, they also get an opportunity to close a deal. So
I think
yeah,
services should be more flexible towards tweaking the offer as opposed to
yeah.
like a product. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How, what is the how much of a manual intervention do you do during cold emailing the process, not the lead generation process, rather the not the lead sourcing process, rather the cold emailing process?
Yeah, manual interventions. Let me think. Really nothing. I would say like most of like the targeting and the strategy and the copywriting is where you have to manually do everything. But after that, like once we get a campaign launched, it's really just like the inbox management for the most part. But that's like pretty productized. It's not the hardest.
Yeah.
But I guess it's like the management of the campaign, like making sure you're following up on leads. Re-hitting them. Like you'll see like a lot of times like you may put in your call to action like, hey, can I send over more information? And like a lot of people reply back yes, but then the actual like conversion from that to a meeting is pretty minuscule
Yeah.
depending on the offer and like what the interest level is. And so like being able to build out sequences to re-engage those guys and just having processes built for that I think is pretty important. I think another thing that is kind of manual as well is just like anytime you get someone that says, hey, take me off your list or unsubscribe me, like a
Yeah.
lot of people miss out on this and they won't actually do it because they just think, okay, my sequencer got the reply, so it's not going to send any messages. But what they fail to recognize is that sometimes your sequencer will continue to send the messages and they're more likely to mark your email
Yeah.
as spam, right? And then like sometimes you'll scrape them in a list, 2 months down the road, and they're going to say, hey, I told this guy to remove me, he didn't. Okay, let
Yeah.
me just mark his email spam. And so like I guess like those are some of the manual processes that we have installed, but for the most part, like from after like the copywriting and the campaign strategy, like the whole entire back end is for the
You
most
must be
part automated.
personalizing the emails, right? That's a big chunk of manual intervention that goes before even the email goes out.
Yeah, so we actually built quick lines which does like the AI personalization,
Oh.
so we'll throw
Yeah,
our lead
I
list into
saw
the
that in your website actually. Yeah, I'll give that a
yeah
try.
yeah 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 definitely. So yeah, it'll write like a personalized line that you can include in your cold emails, and so we'll use that for all of our clients. So that kind of, and it's funny, we used to manually do that. We had like a whole team of like 7 writers that would sit there all day just write personalized first lines.
Yeah, we,
And
we still do that, to be honest. Like, I'm looking for a
oh
solution. So if you
yeah,
guys have,
I mean,
I'll check it out.
like if you check out the like if you run enough tests and you do this at scale, like you'll notice that personalization will never make or break your campaign. And for the most part, like a lot of our clients have pretty large TAMs. And so like if you have a 10 out of 10 line and I have a 7 out of 10 line in terms of quality, like there's not going to be much of a difference in terms of like
I
emails
think
turning into
the
leads.
the whole purpose of the personalized line is like you have done some research on the client. You're not
Mm-hmm.
just shooting arrows in the dark.
Yeah.
You're not spraying and praying. Yes, you have done a little bit of research, figured out what their problem is, then you are reaching out. So it makes it look more personal. And many times I get emails, and even though I know that it's a email that is probably written by AI, the personalization is done by AI, but just the mention of certain features that I have in my profiles, makes me open the entire email and reply back. So
Yeah.
we're in the game. So it makes sense.
You know, it's funny, actually. I was running a campaign, or my team was, right? So I had done, obviously we run cold emails for our own agency. And somehow I got onto my own list for like my team prospecting towards me. And I got the cold email. And it was in the main inbox. And it was like I had a personalization to it. And I was
Right?
like, oh, dude, this is amazing. Like my team just sent me a cold email and it's like a legitimately
You're
good
so
cold
proud,
email, you
right?
know?
Like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah. It was a good memory because it was just like, oh, dang, like, this is good copy. There's personalization. Everything's formatted perfectly. It landed in my primary inbox. Like, I was like, this is great work.
All right.
So yeah, that was pretty funny to see.
All right. That's cool, man. So I have one last question about cold emailing. Then we'll skip to the next topic, which we'll
Yeah.
talk about your growth as an entrepreneur. But something that I have seen, and this is my insight as a cold email agency owner myself, and what I'm seeing nowadays is like personalized Loom videos are giving phenomenal results, like at least in
Mhm.
India to my clients, because we do a lot of outreach. And because coming from a third world country, what happens is you kind of see a little bit of less response as opposed to like a person sitting in America and reaching out, right? So I've seen this Loom video strategy work very well for us. Have you ever tried these, or like, do you have any insights into how this entire market is shaping up?
Yeah. So one of my friends, he actually runs one of the like personalized Loom video things at scale kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it works for the most part. I also think that it really depends on who you're emailing, right? Like there's two strategies there, right? Like you can write a cold email where it's like, hey, I created a Loom video breaking down XYZ. Do you mind if I send it over? The person replies back yes. And then you can have your client kind of like create the Loom video and do it. The issue I found with that though is that clients take forever, specifically for things like that, because they overthink it, right? And so then you can't really get the Loom video for them,
Yeah.
like made for that prospect. And then it's just like a delay. Cause like response time is everything when it comes from
Yeah.
getting someone that's semi-interested to trying to convert them. So like, that strategy doesn't work too well. But then if you use some of these products out there, I can't remember them off the top of my head. Or Pitch Lane, for example, that's the one my friend runs, Ryan.
What is it? Can
It
I repeat that?
yeah, it's called pitchlane.co, I believe.
Hmm.
And what it does is it will record, like, you put your lead list there and you record a video and it looks like a Loom video. And what it does in the background is put the website like on it, like as if you're scrolling on it. And I think like if you're selling to and there's a couple of AI ones out there as well that'll actually like change the voice on like your screen and make it seem like you're saying the company name. I think that one's called like Taurus.ai. And like the thing about it is the AI ones are typically really expensive per video you create. Could be like $3 to $5, which is pretty expensive when you're cold emailing. Like imagine on your entire lead list getting it going. It might be worth it. It might be, depends on what you're selling. But like I think if you're selling to like kind of like a tech aware audience, like imagine if you're selling to like other cold email agencies or other like, you know, sales professionals, right? Like they're gonna just see right through that.
Yeah, yeah.
That it's not
Absolutely.
like it's automated, and I think that's gonna throw off people. But I
I
think
think it
there are certain
works.
industries that it'll
I
work with.
mean, and now that I think about it, you can't like send personalized Loom videos to dentists or like doctors or like this
Yeah.
kind of market where like there is a cap to how much the market can earn. Uh, this sort of strategy worked well when the time was pretty small. So
Mhm.
there was this client that came to me and he was like, I want to only work with people, or I'll say e-commerce companies who are using Salesforce in their backend. I'm like, talk
Yeah.
about the filters that I had to put there, right? So we came up with a list of like after scouring everything, Salesforce, LinkedIn page, filtering each and every single companies. We came
Hmm.
up with a list of like 1,200. That's all. That's all
Hmm.
we could gather, like with all our effort. With that small of a list, you can't really go, just, you can't really send a lot of bulk emails and everything. So we had to like personalize every single thing. Even with the icebreaker, I had to put like a Loom video on top of it. So that kind of worked well because I knew that I only have this 1,200 people to work with, not
Hmm.
anymore. And that worked well because we closed, I mean, the client closed like almost 10 to 20 deals out of that entire list.
Oh
So,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah. No,
So
that's
imagine
huge.
like there is a first line which is written manually, plus there is a Loom video in the first email, which is all about the client, made by my client. So it would be like, while my writers will be writing first lines every day, the client will be shooting 50 looms every single day, and it'll be like scheduling. It was like complete manual work, but it did pay off pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're if you're a lead gen agency and you're doing like that extensive of a process, charge more and ask for the rev share
Of
because
course,
like
of course.
those,
We charged
like
a fair
yeah,
share,
then
yeah.
then it works out really well for sure.
All right. So speaking about charging, bro, tell me a little bit. I mean, if you can reveal your secrets, how do you charge?
Mhm.
Is it like a percentage of close basis? Is it like a fixed, payment per appointment? How does it work?
Yeah, so we do we like when we say pay per meeting ready lead, what that means is like we'll send out the cold email once we get someone that is interested in the offer. So they're showing some level of interest to the product or service. And then, we'll do the response handling to get them to say, hey, yeah, I'm open to speak, or here's my calendar, or give me a call. Basically showing indication of they want to, see a meeting as well. That's what we bill for. And so we'll send those to our client sales teams. And so we'll bill according to the lead. And we'll price it depending on like who they want to target, right? Like if they're wanting to go after like Fortune 500s, like, yeah, we're going to charge an arm and a leg for each one,
Yeah.
right? Like, we're going to go upwards of 800. But if it's like, SMBs or something of that sort, like the lowest we'll typically go is like 300. So that's like the range we're in, 300 to 800, I'd say. And
Hmm.
then we'll also enable like a tech fee because, like, for the most part, and when I say tech fee, it's like just covering like their inboxes. So we have 20 inboxes, their lead list, the verification, all that stuff, personalization, sequencer, everything like that. So we just charge like around $500 per month for that. And then that's pretty much it. And the reason why we do that is because like you could sell, like it would be disadvantage to us. Like if we took on, let's say, like a web design client, right? Like getting web design leads is extremely difficult. It's because
Extremely
it's timing
difficult.
based,
You probably be cold
And
calling
so
for that.
yeah, and even then it's still difficult because like the offer is like so much based off of like timing, right? And you can't like build like a list, and you could do some creative strategies, but for the most part, like I would never take on someone like that and put all the risk on my end to generate leads and only get
Like,
paid off of that. Like I got to make sure my basis is covered. So
yeah,
that's kind of
one
how
of
we
the
run our
thoughts
model.
that I had when sorry to cut you off here, but one
Yeah,
of the
yeah, no,
thoughts
you're
that
good.
I had when I looked at your offer, and this is what made me go crazy because we charge as a retainer because I believe that's like the safest way to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can obviously put like a crazy guarantee that your client is, risk free and everything. But when I saw your offer, I was like, oh, he must be really selective of the clients that he's getting because you can't give results to all the clients. No,
Mm-hmm.
agency owner to agency owner. Right? That's how it is.
Yeah, 100%.
You're gonna be like really, really, really vet your clients to the best levels. You know that okay, you got like 90% chances of getting them results, and that's how you can come up with a very, very good offer like the one that you have. Am I correct?
Yeah, 100%. We have like a list of like industries and clients and offers that we won't touch. Like if anyone's wanting
Oh,
to do like,
oh, dude, that's the first. I see people making list of people that they want to send emails to. You have a list that you won't touch.
yeah, like if anyone's selling into like IT, for example, we'll try to avoid them. If they're selling like software development or app development, we won't touch them.
Hmm.
And the reason why is because we learned the hard way, right? Like we would take them on, results weren't there, and then we would suffer because we're doing it on a pay per lead basis. And then we kind of recognize like, oh, these are just harder industries, no matter how we craft the campaign for it to actually work. And so we just have industries where we won't touch. And then like a lot of times as well, if like let's say like you get like a 20-year-old kid with solo led agency that is selling Facebook ads to e-commerce businesses with
Yeah.
no brand, no e-com, like no nothing, like we're not taking that guy on for at all, like ever, and we learned the hard way because we did that. And sometimes we'll have people that slip kind of through the cracks because I don't run any of the sales calls, my sales team does. And we'll have people that kind of don't fit exactly what we want to do, and typically what we'll do is we'll refund them. Like as soon as we start the onboarding process and we realize like, hey, there's gonna be a lot more work and a lot harder to generate
Yeah.
the leads that we want, we'll just like simply have to just refund them and go ways because
Absolutely.
it's not gonna be in our benefit to kind of be able to not service them as well as like not be able to like
Sometimes
make
it's just not worth the effort. That makes sense.
100%.
Yeah. Let's go into a little bit of the beginnings of Leadbird. So I'm pretty sure it's not your first venture, right? So how many
Mm-hmm.
failed business do you have before you started Leadbird or Quick Lines?
Dude, so many failed businesses. Yeah, probably like in the 6 to 10 range. I've had like
Whoa.
so many ideas where I've like started, then like failed, or like started, or like would just like think of the idea, do all the planning, and never actually get to it. Like just so many different things and ideas. Is from like anywhere from like middle school. I used to sell like socks, customized socks in middle school, and like there's a whole bunch of random things that I did going on, and eventually it led to where we're at right now. So it technically a failure, yes, but it's a learning experience, and that's what counts the most.
I mean, every entrepreneur usually have a graveyard of failures behind their most successful,
Yeah.
especially, right?
Mhm.
So that's always there. Tell me about like when you started Leadbird, like did you start it alone or did you have a team by the time you started this agency or even Quicklines?
Yeah, so I've had partners that kind of fell off on the Leadbird side. And when we first started Leadbird, the model was a lot different. So what we used to do, so actually when I first started, we did pay per appointment. And I realized that was kind of operationally hard to scale once you hit like 20 clients. And then I was kind of like trying like other businesses that failed as well. But what we would do on the offer side was we would do like a omni-channel setup and release outreach offer. So it's like you pay monthly to get access to like the system that would, send emails and then do LinkedIn connection requests. And like that worked on the sales side, but in terms of client success, it was low because like you got to manage it all the way from start to finish when it comes to like lead gen for clients, because otherwise they just won't get the results that they would like
Yeah.
because they're either slow to reply, and then you just have high churn, right? And so we ran that model for a while, and then we started doing kind of similarly. We would do pay per positive reply. So anytime we got a positive response, we would send it to our clients and bill them for it. But then the issue there was their actual like meeting an appointment set rate was pretty low just because they're slow to respond. And so
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, let's take it, one step further and get like a higher level of interest and do like meeting ready lead. And that's kind of how
What do you
Leadbird
mean
has
by
involved.
meeting ready lead? I assumed when you said meeting ready leads, you would be booking up, giving appointments to your clients.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. So meeting ready lead meaning that they show interest into the product or service. So let's say, I send a cold email like, hey, if I can generate you leads on a pay per lead basis, would you be interested? You'll say yes,
Oh,
right?
okay. You define that interest. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So you got to define the interest, but then you also got to get them to say, hey, give me a call, or, I'm available these times. And so once they say yes, that's something I'd be interested in, our inbox managers will go in, they'll reply to the lead, say, hey, sounds great. Here's some client success stories. I'm available on day 1 or day 2 to speak. Let me know if you're available and which day works best for you. They'll reply back saying, yeah, I'm available on July 15th
Got
at
it.
3:30. And then once we get that like definition, we'll just send it to the client, and then the client will manage like actually booking the appointment. And
Oh,
so, yeah.
okay. That's good. That's pretty good. All right. And when you started Leadbird side of things, so it's crazy to think you have like 99 customers, like hopefully
Yeah.
100, right? And you scale
Uh-huh.
like the system to that level. But I want to go a little bit micro. So when you were starting out, when you had like those first 3, 4, 5 clients, how did you manage the entire chaos? Because we have 10 clients now.
Yeah.
Dude,
Mhm.
I'm like, it's killing me.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, and this is like the best advice I ever got. It's like, your operations don't get fixed in a day, right? And businesses aren't built in a day. It's like you just gotta like understand that you gotta continuously work on things. Because like what a lot of people do, and I'm guilty of this, is you'll try to fix every single problem that you have in one day. Just try to knock
yeah,
them out as
I
like it's
think
a
we're all
to-do
guilty
list.
of that.
And that's not how it works, right? It's like you build and you fix things as time goes on, right? And so you'll just learn like the different solutions, the different ways your team could communicate, and everything is constantly evolving. So like when I was first starting out, before I would say we had like true product market fit, I'm always like trying to like make these very standardized processes, and then I'd hire new team members, then everything just changes and we're like starting from scratch again, and then that just causes confusion. What I wish I did starting out, like when we were in that like 5 to 10 client role, is I wish I owned like pretty much all of the fulfillment in the sense, and stop trying to delegate very early on, because
Makes
then
sense.
you learn and you have more control, so your clients get more of the success and the results that they're paying
Yeah.
for, and then you start to slowly add in people in. That's kind of like the opposite approach I took on early. I'm like very heavy into automations and stuff, and
That,
so
that approach actually makes sense though, because then you'll have more client happiness. If clients are happy, they won't go. You'll have good success rate that enables you to get more clients.
Yep.
So yeah, at least in agency space, I believe client happiness is more important than sales, because I mean outreach has been forever, but a lot of the agencies grow just by referrals. And how
Mhm.
do you get referrals is by providing really good service. And if you think it that way, I think fulfillment is like the biggest bull in the game that we need to master.
The one thing I would say though is like with agencies, like and this is like how you got to think about it. Like you can't market a bad offer. You can't market a bad product. You can't
Absolutely.
grow a bad product, a bad business, right? And so you have to figure out how you could build your fulfillment to deliver for 80% of the people, right? Because that's who you're going to keep up with. Because there's going to be people that slip through the crack, like we have and we will continue to have customers that just won't get the results because they don't have that product market fit,
Yeah.
right? And so you got to figure out how you can get your fulfillment to stabilize and be able to deliver for a mass majority. Because any agency owner that says every single one of my clients come in and get results is lying. That's
Yeah,
impossible. You can't
absolutely.
guarantee results, and there's things that happen. Like, you know, a great example is like we have a client right now. They sell like signal boosting services to IT or to signal boosting services to like schools. That's like their service. It's summer, so nobody's in school. So like
Nobody.
obviously the
Yeah,
results are going to
of
dip over
course.
the next 3 months.
Yeah.
And so it's just like just one of those things where you got to figure out how you can get it to stabilize and like just be proactive about like communication with clients and things of that sort.
Yeah, I think the 80/20 really fixes this thing. What would be your insights? Because you are into this agency space, and I really admire the clarity that you have. So, I was really thinking, what questions should I ask? Would this podcast
Mm-hmm.
be fun? I'm really enjoying it. I'm learning a lot. So, what would be your advice to a person who is just starting out? I'm not telling like on the cold emails front, but let's say, because my audience, they are like very, I would say, they are agency owners who are doing anywhere about $2,000 to $5,000 a month, or maybe $2,000 to $10,000 a month, which is still in the beginners range. And what I consult people, it's cold emailing and stuff regularly, right? And this question keeps coming up, like, hey, you know what? We have somehow grown our agency to 5, 10, 10 grand a month, but to go to the next level, we need more outreach. So, what would you advise to an entrepreneur who is in that range of revenue?
Yeah. So the way I would approach it if I was doing this all over again is try to own a majority of the processes just because you're going to make sure that your fulfillment stays dialed in and you'll make sure that and if your fulfillment is dialed in you're going to retain your clients, which means that you're going to make more money. And if it's you're doing a majority of the fulfillment, like you'll be able to retain more of the cash as well, right? Because there'll be higher margins, so you'll be able to pay yourself out. And then what I would focus on is like making sure you're building out like systems and processes to kind of remove yourself from fulfillment slowly, right? Like you should never, even right now, like I kind of took fulfillment off for the last month and let my team kind of handle the strategies, and I realized that's not how it needs to be because like the strategies aren't exactly where I want it to be. So our results dipped this last month,
All
and
right.
so like you're never gonna really like leave fulfillment, but you need to be able to be like the overseer, the manager, and not being able to like go into the ads account and make all the adjustments or write the copy or create the creative or whatever it is, right? That's what I would say. Like slowly remove yourself out of fulfillment, focus a lot more on the actual like management and hiring and training of your team. Once you kind of get to that point where you can kind of start delegating things out. And like as the founder, you just got to be aware that you're going to be wearing every hat in the business. You are the CMO, you are the CEO, you are the COO, you are the VP of sales. Like you are all of those, right? And so just being able to block out your days properly so that you're taking care of all of those departments, I think is huge.
Yeah.
And like I think the other big thing too is like it's so much easier, it's so much quicker to close deals specifically on the sales side when you have sales assets built and you get that like everything in your like every department, every part in your business, they have to work in tangent together, right? And so like you have to kill it on fulfillment so that you can create video interviews with your customers that you can then use on your sales calls and as sales assets and have people use to follow up on sales calls with to eventually close. It's like a whole like circle and cycle that you just kind of have to work through. But yeah, I would just say like, it just takes time and experience, and you just got to go at it one day at a time and just be willing to put in the effort and the work and just start tackling things one thing at a time. Really, I think that's the best way to kind of think about it and kind of go about it as well.
I think it helps to have a co-pilot, co-founder as well, good co-founder, obviously, because a lot of the agencies die off because most of them, the partners are not in agreement. And I believe if you have like one or two people who are in sync and you have a shared vision, it helps overall because I when I started doing it alone, I was burning myself out like it was crazy. But and we now I have a co-founder who takes care of a lot of the stuff. Like he's pretty much taken care of the entire marketing stuff, and I don't even have
Mhm.
to think about customer acquisition. Customers just comes, and I take care of fulfillment. That's all. So
Mhm.
I think that way it kind of helps. Do you have co-founders in the business, or like are you
So on a lot of our software companies, I do have co-founders, but on the actual agency of Leadbird, we don't have any co-founders. It's just me. And you know, I like co-founders, and I also don't. I don't have any issues with any of my co-founders, but I've been in like previous partnerships that just didn't play out.
Hmm.
I think specifically with like agencies, it's a little bit harder because your margins aren't always as great, and like I rather because like if your team is handling a majority of the work and like the fulfillment, I rather be able to pay for like better talent and be able to retain them longer, and then still be able to do well on my end because I don't have to worry about splitting 50-50 with the partner. So that's how I always thought about on the agency. I think with SaaS businesses, it's a little bit different since you have higher margins. I don't know. That's kind of been my take, and I also like you just kind of think about it as well. It's like I think choosing partners it's very hard. It's like literally walking into a
Yeah.
marriage, and it's like you it's like a very hard choice for people to make. I don't know. Like I think like your partner has to it just has to match like perfectly, and like it's very hard to walk away from like a business where you have a partner, or
Yeah.
have a partner that's fully committed in. I don't know. I hope that's not how it is with you and your partner. I'm sure it's going great, but yeah, I don't know. Like I trust my abilities more than I trust anyone else's. When it comes to like getting work like things done, and so I don't know. I just like I'm not really risk tolerant, so I would hate to put like any kind of uncertainty out there because it will just stress me out. That's kind of why I've always like decided to do things on my own.
Very
Um,
protective of your entire business and equity there. Yeah, that's good.
yeah,
That's a good quality.
yeah,
Yeah.
mhm,
So I mean, when we decided to start the partnership, it was when we both of us were like burning ourselves out, and I was an employee in this company to be honest when I was beginning, and
mhm,
my co-founder now he didn't have anyone to like take care of the fulfillment and team building front, and I had the knowledge and the assets and the system, so we're like kind of yin yang complementing each other.
mhm.
That's when we came across, and touchwood, it's been 3 years. All
Oh
is
wow, that's
fantastic.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, man. All right. So a fantastic podcast, Nick. Thanks a lot for sharing all this knowledge. And yeah, any last words for our audience? And
yeah. No,
also, how
no.
do they contact you? That
Yeah, if you just type in Nick Abraham on YouTube, Twitter, or LinkedIn, you'll probably find me somewhere. Nick Abraham 12 is I think the Twitter and the YouTube. And then LinkedIn I'm just starting out on right now. But if you type in Nick Abraham or leadbird.io, you'll find us.
yeah. Okay. All right. Any last words? Any last piece of advice for young entrepreneurs?
Uh just be committed to work all day and every day and be happy in being in the trenches, like you said before. And I think if you do that, you'll eventually find your success soon enough.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. It's been
Thanks for
insightful.
having me on.